All right, a complex story needs a simple explanation from a simple man. Mike Morgan joins us. Good evening, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I just spoke for 4 hours hosting the afternoon show here in Atlanta on 680 The Fan. I said, the only thing that would make my day more complete is to spend another 15 minutes talking to Phil Kornbluth. So here I am.
All right, so let me ask you, since you just laid that out there, who has the smarter, more intelligent, the more passionate sports fan, the state of South Carolina or the city of Atlanta?
Well, look, I think college football fans, let's start there, are among the most passionate on the planet. So the beauty of Atlanta is it's not just a pro town. We spend, I can tell you, on any given 4-hour show, especially if it's Chuck Oliver and I, who I normally do the afternoon show with when I'm filling in, we spend probably at least a third of the show on college football. So there's plenty of Braves, which there's not much to talk about right now in that category other than woe is me. There's some Falcons. There's some national news. And then there's a lot of college football. So when you talk about college football, Georgia fans are every bit as passionate as fans in South Carolina or Texas or name your state. And what makes Atlanta unique, as you know, I know you've got family here, I know you've driven through it 1,000 times, is that there's fan bases of so many more programs. For example, the producer of the show that I did today, Colin Madden, is a South Carolina graduate and a big Gamecock fan. You'll see South Carolina plates, you'll see Tennessee, you'll see Florida. They've all got huge contingents of fans right here. This is kind of the mecca of college football. So they're right up there. They love their pro teams, yes, but they certainly love their Georgia Bulldogs or their Tennessee Vols or their Auburn Tigers or whoever else.
All right, so let me ask you, from the host perspective, share with me what the media in Atlanta is saying, the talking media in Atlanta, and then tell me what you're hearing from the Georgia fans, the two parties, media, fans. Anybody there at all embarrassed about or embarrassed for what's been going on with the Georgia football program with all the police activity, including this most recent one with Ray Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think they've almost become – well, let me put it this way. The media has become immune to it because every time you turn on the microphone to do a show, it's a Georgia football player going like 95 in a 45-mile-per-hour zone. There's been a lot of problems in the car. This is a whole separate category and probably, compared to some of the others, more egregious. I'd be surprised if he is back on the team. That's probably an hour-by-hour news story. But if what I've heard, and I don't want to report it as fact, these are just people at the station that certainly know a few folks over there in Athens. From what I've heard, if that's true, I would imagine he's gone. So, yeah, but you've almost become immune to it because every few months it seems like it's something there. However, you know how this goes. Let's not pretend that any fan base is going to be objective when it comes to one of their own, because when it's their own players and you've had the success that Georgia's had here lately, you tend to turn the other cheek on a lot of stuff. And yeah, they don't want to hear about players getting in trouble, but their attitude is, and in this case, they can cut him from the team tomorrow and they're still going to be full of 5 stars. So they're not overly worried about it. So the answer to your question, no, I don't think they're like hanging their heads in shame over some of the off-the-field stuff. And I think if you look around the country, unfortunately, there's more of this than you'd like to see.
Mike, Phil asked me a question earlier, and I didn't have a really good answer because I'm not naive enough to believe that they'd fire Kirby Smart over this, but it's clearly a systemic problem within his program. But when he's the highest paid employee at the university, it's kind of hard to take a shot at the king. So, I mean, what do you do if you're the administration at Georgia and you're tired of seeing your team players, not in the sports page, but on the front page of the Athens paper or the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I mean, what should Georgia do? Because clearly they're not whatever they're trying to do is not working.
Well, unfortunately, it's more about what you do after something goes down. How do you handle it disciplinary-wise? How do you handle it? Do you cut it from the team? Well, here's the fact of the matter, and this goes back to what I was saying, and I'm far from a Georgia apologist. I could care less whether they kick off another 30 kids from the team. But we all know this. These same kids that are getting in trouble at Georgia were recruited by everybody else, including the team. Whoever's listening right now, your favorite team recruited that kid in all likelihood, because they're all 4- and 5-star kids. I mean, that's basically what Georgia deals with. So let's not pretend like Georgia's just recruiting the bad apples, but all the other schools are recruiting really good kids. That's not the case. And what they do once they come to your campus, it's the old, well, we can't babysit them all the time. You have to be responsible. You're an adult. This is not a 19-year-old freshman even. I'd have to say he's probably in the age range of at least 21. I don't know that off the top of my head. You could look it up, but you don't have athletic dorms anymore. These kids are kind of living all over the place, and they're doing their thing, and now they got money in their pocket. And in this particular case, again, we're talking about something that wasn't done in public. This is something within the confines of he and his significant other's home or wherever they might live. So not much more I can offer than that situation specifically, other than what I just said. That unfortunately, there's not a whole lot you can do, and I can promise you this: you're right. Kirby is under no worries about being cut loose or suspended or anything else. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Georgia is some renegade program, because it's not. And Georgia does. They keep their house in order. I mean, if kids get in trouble, they take care of it. There's been kids removed from the team already, and there'll be more that happens to. And whenever other school out there, unfortunately, we got to keep reporting these stories or hearing about it, because it happens at more places than it doesn't.
Mike Morgan on the move with us here tonight on Sports Talk. All right, let's shift gears to another complicated situation. It's what I think Phil was talking about to get you to explain it to us. And it's the NCAA and the Power 5, Power 4 conferences filing their 100-plus page long-form agreement to settle the 3 antitrust lawsuits, House, Hubbard, and Carter. I don't even want to get into the minutia, Mike, because I'm not sure we've got enough time with you the next hour and 15 minutes that we have here on the air tonight. But just overall thoughts about, especially in my mind, the back pay and going back 10 years and paying players in mostly football and men's basketball who weren't able to take advantage of name, image, and likeness a decade ago. Is it a good idea to go back and pay them now?
Again, above my pay grade. What they do about what happened 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I'm not overly interested in it. I don't think there's much precedent there to really know what the right thing is or what the wrong thing is. I don't know how they arrive at some of the numbers that they do. All I know is the NCAA has got a really poor losing percentage in court, or a really poor winning percentage, or really good losing percentage, depending on how you want to look at it. They haven't won any of these battles. They keep settling and settling and settling, or getting dunked on if it comes to the Supreme Court. For me, the bigger issue and concern is going to be moving forward. Everybody that just got handed a $20 to $22.5 million invoice that you're going to have to use to pay your players as part of the quote-unquote revenue sharing of the TV deals. Okay, now you get that $22 million. How much of that goes towards football? How much toward basketball? How much toward the sports that do not bring any money in? Or in the case of a women's basketball, you might have a program that's losing between $5 and $8 million a year. Are you on top of that going to spend more money that's for a sport in the red? These are things that, from what I understand, are going to have to be determined in a courtroom and not anywhere else. So that to me is the bit. I think like an AD does. If I'm a current AD, once you pay off the deficit of the past, what does it look like going forward, and how does that affect the bottom line? And you know how this goes. They're not just going to take that money have an extra bill of $22 million and not start cutting other places. So, unfortunately to me, I don't want to see it, but I'm afraid it could happen. So people are going to start losing jobs, and they're going to start cutting in places that they feel like they have to in order to still bring in a profit but also be competitive. So that's something that I think everybody that's working in athletic administration has to be the least bit leery about and kind of looking over your shoulder a bit.
Let me ask you this, quick yes, no, because I do want to touch on the Braves with you before we let you go. Just to kind of sum it up here, your opinion, this is strictly your opinion. Going back to where we were, this is 2024. Let's go back to 2014, 2015. Let's go back 10 years where college athletics was 10 years ago. Kids were getting scholarships. They were getting everything paid for a college education. They were getting stipends. You know everything that went on with being a college athlete, okay? So we've gone from that to where we are today with complete free agency for players, unbridled access to thousands to millions of dollars for some select athletes, thousands of dollars for many athletes, maybe almost all, getting paid one way or another. Are we going to be, when all this, when the dust is settled, in your opinion, are we going to be, as fans of college sports, are we going to be better off with this new way compared to the way we were 10 years ago?
I think the playoff just expanded another 4 teams in the duration of that question. But
yeah, I should have mentioned that too. Yeah, good point. Yeah,
I think I understand where you're coming from, and I hear it from fans all the time. They're resistant to change, but they're also resistant to just what this looks like. It's not just – I don't think most people have a problem with players being compensated. And some would say they've been compensated for years under the table. We're not going to pretend like that hasn't gone on. Phil, you could probably tell 1,000 stories specifically of net players, how much they got and who they got it from. In fact, I think you ought to do that in the next hour. Stay tuned, folks.
Yep.
But I think the bigger issue that fans have is the outright free agency. You termed it correctly. It is pro model, free agency, player going to the highest bidder first out of high school, and then again if they put their names in the portal. And that's something that I think is that turns off fans immensely. But what I always tell people, and what I truly believe, is that you might not like it, you might rue the day it ever happened, but by the same token, you are not all of a sudden going to stop caring. We used the word passion earlier. You're not going to lose your passion, and you're not going to stop caring about your favorite college football, basketball team. I just don't think that's going to happen. I could be wrong. I've gotten in debates on this on JC and Morgan and other venues. Some people believe that, nope, you've pushed fans too much, and they've had enough, and college football is going to pay the price, and the ratings are going to go down, and the ticket sales are going to go down. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think any of that is happening.
1 minute on the Braves.
They're just not a good team, Phil. They don't hit, and they don't play well. Last night was a microcosm of the way the season has been going. Base running errors, one, not to mention Whit Merrifield getting caught trying to steal third. A right fielder overrunning a routine fly ball, a botched what was clearly not supposed to be a suicide squeeze, but I don't know who got what signal where, and it just didn't make any sense. I don't think it's going to – they could still sneak in as a wild card, but I don't think this roster, the way it's comprised, is good enough to go much further, and the trade deadline will be next Wednesday. They better pick up a bat or two because I don't think they have enough offense.
Mike, appreciate as always, a simple man making the complex sound simple. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it, guys.
See you, buddy. Have a good weekend.